What if the reason you struggle to love yourself has nothing to do with confidence? What if it has nothing to do with your appearance, your past, your failures, or even the way other people treat you? What if the real reason is something far more uncomfortable? Something you do every single day without realizing it. Because most people believe self-love is a feeling. They think it arrives when they become successful enough, attractive enough, accepted enough, healed enough. They spend years chasing confidence, approval, validation, and motivation, hoping that one day they will finally wake up and feel good about themselves. Yet that day rarely comes. Not because they are broken. Because they are searching in the wrong place. The truth is that self-love is not something you discover. It is something you earn. Not from the world. From yourself. And every time you break a promise to yourself, every time you choose comfort over growth, every time you abandon what you know is right for what feels easy, something inside you notices. Your mind notices. Your character notices. Your self-respect notices. That is why so many people feel disconnected from themselves. Not because they lack potential, but because they have stopped trusting themselves. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Long before modern psychology. Long before self-help books. Long before social media convinced people that self-care means escape. They understood that true self-love is built through discipline. Through integrity. Through self-mastery. And once you understand this, everything changes. Because the goal is no longer to feel better. The goal becomes becoming someone you genuinely respect.
Welcome to True Stoic Journal, the path to inner control.
Most people have been taught a version of self-care that feels comforting but leaves them weaker. When life becomes difficult, they are told to distract themselves. Treat yourself. Escape. Take your mind off it. Indulge. Consume. Relax. And for a moment, it works. The problem is that temporary relief is often mistaken for healing. A person spends hours scrolling. Binge watches another series. Consumes another distraction. Avoids another responsibility. And temporarily, the discomfort disappears. But when tomorrow arrives, the problem remains. The anxiety remains. The lack of confidence remains. The dissatisfaction remains. Nothing has changed except the passage of time. This is because comfort is often confused with care. Yet they are not the same thing. Comfort reduces pain temporarily. Care prepares you for reality. Comfort helps you forget. Care helps you grow. Comfort feels good in the moment. Care creates strength over time. The Stoics saw this distinction clearly. To them, self-care was never about avoiding hardship. It was about becoming stronger than hardship. Marcus Aurelius never spoke about building a comfortable life. Seneca never taught people how to avoid struggle. Epictetus never promised freedom from difficulty. Instead, they focused on something much deeper. Building a mind that remained stable regardless of circumstances. A mind that could face a challenge without collapsing. A mind that did not depend on perfect conditions to function. This is where genuine self-respect begins. Not when life becomes easier. When you become stronger. Think about the moments when you have respected yourself most. Was it after avoiding difficulty? Was it after procrastinating? Was it after abandoning a goal? Probably not. The moments that create self-respect are usually uncomfortable. Keeping a promise when breaking it would be easier. Telling the truth when lying would be safer. Doing the difficult thing when no one is watching. Facing a challenge instead of avoiding it. These moments rarely feel comfortable. But they create something that comfort can never provide. Trust. Trust in yourself. The kind of trust that cannot be purchased, cannot be borrowed, cannot be given by another person. It must be earned. This is why the first Stoic habit is morning self-examination. Most people wake up and immediately surrender their attention. Before they even leave bed, they check messages, notifications, news, social media, other people's opinions, other people's problems, other people's priorities. Within minutes, their minds belong to the world. And then they wonder why they feel scattered, anxious, reactive, directionless. The Stoics approached mornings differently. Marcus Aurelius often prepared himself before the day began. Not because he expected life to be easy, because he expected life to challenge him. Every morning became an opportunity to strengthen his character before reality began testing it. Imagine beginning each day by asking yourself 3 simple questions. Who do I want to be today? What challenges am I likely to face? How will I respond when those challenges arrive? Notice what these questions do. They shift attention inward, away from circumstances, toward character. Most people focus on what they need to accomplish. The Stoics focused on who they needed to become. Because accomplishments come and go, character remains. You can lose money, lose status, lose opportunities, lose recognition. But character follows you everywhere. This is why morning self-examination is so powerful. It forces intentionality. Instead of allowing life to decide who you become today, you decide first. Patience, discipline, courage, wisdom, self-control. You choose the virtue before the test appears. And when the test eventually arrives, you are prepared. Not because circumstances changed. Because you did. Epictetus once taught that a person must first decide who they wish to be and then consistently act in accordance with that decision. Most people reverse this process. They wait to feel motivated, inspired, confident, ready. The Stoics understood something different. Action creates identity. Not the other way around. You become disciplined by practicing discipline. You become courageous by practicing courage. You become trustworthy by practicing trustworthiness. And every day offers another opportunity to strengthen those qualities. This brings us to the second habit. A practice that initially sounds uncomfortable but possesses extraordinary power. Voluntary discomfort. Modern culture encourages comfort at every opportunity. More convenience. More ease. More entertainment. More distraction. More immediate gratification. And while comfort itself is not the enemy, dependence on comfort is. Because the person who requires perfect conditions becomes fragile. The moment life becomes difficult, they struggle. The moment uncertainty appears, they panic. The moment discomfort arrives, they retreat. Seneca understood this danger. Despite his wealth and influence, he occasionally chose discomfort voluntarily. Simple food. Simple clothing. Hard conditions. Not because suffering was admirable. Because dependence was dangerous. He wanted proof that comfort had not become a necessity. Proof that difficulty did not control him. Proof that his happiness was not dependent upon luxury. This lesson remains incredibly relevant today. Most fears grow in avoidance. Most discomfort becomes larger in imagination than in reality. The longer something is avoided, the more powerful it appears. A difficult conversation. A challenging task. A new opportunity. A necessary change. The mind magnifies what it refuses to face. Voluntary discomfort reverses this process. A cold shower. A demanding workout. Waking earlier than necessary. Choosing discipline over convenience. Each small act sends a message to the mind. You are stronger than your impulses. Stronger than your excuses. Stronger than your comfort zone. And over time, something remarkable begins happening. Fear loses authority. Discomfort loses power. Confidence grows. Not because someone praised you. Because you proved something to yourself. Most people seek confidence through external validation. The Stoics sought confidence through evidence. Evidence created by action. Evidence created by discipline. Evidence created by repeatedly doing difficult things. This kind of confidence is different. It is quieter. More stable. Less dependent on circumstances. Because it is rooted in experience rather than opinion. And that is why voluntary discomfort is one of the highest forms of self-care. Not because it feels good. Because it builds someone capable of handling what life eventually brings. And life will bring challenges. The question is not whether difficulties will appear. The question is whether you will be ready when they do. The Stoics spent their lives preparing for that moment. Not through fear. Not through pessimism. Through practice. Through discipline. Through habits that transformed ordinary people into extraordinary examples of resilience. And the next habit may be the most important of all because it determines whether you remain a servant to impulse or become the master of your own mind. The greatest battle you will ever fight is not against another person. It is not against circumstances. It is not against failure. It is not even against the hardships life places in your path. The greatest battle is against the version of yourself that constantly seeks the easy way out. The voice that says, tomorrow. The voice that says, just this once. The voice that says, you deserve a break. The voice that promises comfort today and quietly steals your future tomorrow. Most people never realize how much of their life is controlled by impulses. A notification appears. They check it. A craving appears. They satisfy it. A distraction appears. They follow it. The process is automatic. Thoughtless. Predictable. And because it is predictable, it becomes a prison. The Stoics had a name for this condition. Slavery. Not slavery to another person. Slavery to desire. Slavery to impulse. Slavery to every urge that demands immediate satisfaction. Epictetus warned that no person is truly free if they cannot govern themselves. This insight is even more relevant today than it was 2,000 years ago. Because modern life is designed to weaken attention. Every platform competes for it. Every notification demands it. Every advertisement manipulates it. The world profits when people become distracted. But self-respect grows when people become disciplined. This is why the third Stoic habit is mindful discipline over instant gratification. Most people assume freedom means doing whatever they want. The Stoics believed the opposite. Freedom means being able to choose what is best, even when you do not feel like choosing it. Think about how often a single impulse changes the direction of an entire day. You intend to work. You check your phone. 5 minutes becomes 30. 30 becomes 90. The task remains unfinished. Frustration grows. And by evening, you wonder where the day went. The problem was never the phone. The problem was surrendering authority. Every impulse accepted without question trains the mind to become weaker. Every impulse examined strengthens it. This is why mindful discipline begins with awareness. Not suppression. Awareness. The moment a craving appears, pause. Observe it. Do not immediately obey it. Do not immediately fight it. Simply notice it. Notice the desire. Notice the discomfort. Notice the urge to escape effort. Most impulses lose power the moment they are observed consciously. Because awareness creates distance. And inside that distance exists freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to respond rather than react. Freedom to act according to values instead of emotions. Seneca once wrote that the person who constantly craves more remains poor regardless of how much they possess. Most people hear this and think about money. The Stoics were speaking about something deeper. A person who cannot control desire never experiences satisfaction. There is always another distraction. Another craving. Another pleasure. Another excuse. The pursuit never ends. And neither does the emptiness it creates. This is why discipline is one of the highest forms of self-care. Discipline protects your future self from your present impulses. Discipline keeps promises that motivation abandons. Discipline creates confidence because confidence grows whenever a person proves they can trust themselves. And trust is impossible without consistency. Every time you choose the difficult task before the easy distraction, self-respect grows. Every time you keep a promise after the excitement disappears, self-respect grows. Every time you act according to principle instead of mood, self-respect grows. The process is gradual. Invisible at first. But over time, it changes the way you see yourself. You stop identifying as someone who hopes to become disciplined. You become someone who is disciplined. And that distinction changes everything. Yet discipline alone is not enough. Because even the most disciplined people face another enemy. An enemy that lives inside the mind itself. The voice of self-judgment. The voice that magnifies mistakes. The voice that turns setbacks into identities. The voice that whispers, "You are not enough." Most people spend years speaking to themselves in ways they would never speak to another human being. One mistake becomes proof of incompetence. One failure becomes proof of inadequacy. One setback becomes evidence that success is impossible. The inner dialogue becomes harsh. Relentless. Punishing. And eventually the mind begins believing its own accusations. This is why the fourth Stoic habit is rational self-talk. Marcus Aurelius understood that events themselves rarely create suffering. Interpretation creates suffering. The meaning assigned to events determines emotional experience. Two people can experience the same setback. One becomes stronger. The other becomes defeated. The difference often lies in the story each person tells themselves. Most people confuse thoughts with truth. The Stoics did not. They examined thoughts. Questioned them. Tested them. A thought appears. "I always fail." The Stoic asks, "Is that true? Or is it emotion pretending to be truth?" Another thought appears. "I am not capable." Again, the Stoic asks, "Where is the evidence? What facts support this conclusion?" Most negative self-talk collapses under honest examination. Not because reality is perfect. Because the mind exaggerates. One mistake becomes always. One setback becomes never. One disappointment becomes everything. This distortion quietly destroys confidence. Rational self-talk restores perspective. Instead of saying, "I am a failure," the Stoic says, "I failed at this attempt." Instead of saying, "Nothing works out," the Stoic says, "This outcome did not work out." Instead of creating identities from events, they separate the event from the person. And that separation changes everything. Because a mistake is not an identity. A setback is not an identity. A failure is not an identity. They are experiences. Experiences can teach. Experiences can strengthen. Experiences can guide. But only if they are not allowed to become permanent definitions. This is why rational self-talk is an act of self-respect. Not because it flatters. Because it tells the truth. And truth is always more useful than self-destruction. When a person learns to become their own ally rather than their own enemy, an extraordinary transformation begins. Confidence becomes steadier. Resilience becomes stronger. Challenges become easier to face. Because the mind finally becomes a source of support rather than a source of attack. Yet the Stoics believed there was one final habit necessary for a meaningful life. And perhaps it is the most overlooked of all. Contribution. Modern culture often teaches people to focus exclusively on themselves. Their success. Their happiness. Their image. Their goals. Their comfort. The result is often surprising. The more obsessed people become with themselves, the emptier they feel. Because meaning rarely comes from consumption. Meaning comes from contribution. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that what benefits the whole benefits the individual. The Stoics understood that human beings are connected. A meaningful life cannot be built entirely around personal gain. A person may achieve success, status, wealth, recognition, yet still feel incomplete. Why? Because fulfillment comes from usefulness, from service, from impact, from knowing that your existence improved something beyond yourself. This does not require extraordinary achievements. It can be simple. Helping a friend. Teaching a skill. Supporting a family member. Encouraging someone who is struggling. Offering value without expecting something in return. These actions create a different kind of satisfaction. A deeper satisfaction. One that lasts longer than pleasure. One that survives difficult seasons. One that strengthens identity. Because contribution answers a question many people silently carry: do I matter? And every meaningful contribution answers, yes. You matter because your actions matter. You matter because your presence matters. You matter because your character influences the lives around you. This realization completes the Stoic understanding of self-care. Self-care is not escape. It is preparation. Self-care is not comfort. It is a strength. Self-care is not indulgence. It is self-respect. The modern world often encourages people to feel better. The Stoics encouraged people to become better. And becoming better changes how you feel naturally. A disciplined person respects themselves. A courageous person respects themselves. A reliable person respects themselves. A person who consistently acts according to their values respects themselves. Not because someone else approves. Because they have earned their own trust. That is the foundation of genuine self-love. Not affirmation. Not validation. Not temporary confidence. Trust. The trust that comes from repeatedly proving to yourself that you can do difficult things. That you can remain calm under pressure. That you can stay disciplined when comfort calls. That you can continue moving forward when life becomes difficult. And once that trust exists, something remarkable happens. You stop searching for worth in places where it cannot be found. You stop depending on approval. You stop measuring yourself against everyone else. You stop needing constant reassurance. Because your self-respect no longer comes from the outside. It comes from the evidence of your own actions. That is what the Stoics were truly teaching. Not how to avoid hardship. How to become stronger than it. Not how to escape life. How to master yourself within it. If this message resonated with you, take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs this reminder, and subscribe to True Stoic Journal for more timeless lessons on discipline, self-mastery, emotional resilience, and inner peace. Remember this: the highest form of self-love is not telling yourself you are enough. It is becoming the kind of person who no longer has to wonder,